So that sounds really fascinating. You mentioned very interesting points, such as if you find some weakness in one process, the related processes will also be downgraded. Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for companies to mitigate such thing in a project? If you're working on a project, what practical advices do you have? How should they deal with it?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, the VDA is recommending to use this guideline in the future. There's also a date defined, so with July 2019, there's a recommendation from VDA only to use the current model of AUTOMOTIVE ASPICE 3.1 together with that guideline. Yeah? Which means that in an assessment, the assessor has also to check if the rules of the guidelines are fulfilled or not. If the projects want to fulfill these rules, then they should be familiar with them, of course. Yeah? So first advice is, of course, also to become familiar with that guideline. Maybe not only by buying the book and reading it, but maybe also with some support, yeah? Some experts who know or who can interpret the content and support the companies in understanding and implementing them. Yeah? So the book and the associated training that was also defined for the assessors is also useful for companies having the challenge to implement it. Second is to understand the guideline and to find a way how to implement it in their own processes and projects in an efficient way. Yeah, so, for example, let's take one example of such a rule. Most of the supporting processes and test processes are asking for a strategy. Yeah? When we talk about quality assurance, for example, first of all, you have to define your quality assurance strategy. Yeah? Which kind of quality assurance activities do you want to carry out? Yeah? What are the responsibilities? What is a kind of quality life cycle? Yeah? And if you don't have this strategy defined and documented, then there's again a rule in the standards that says, okay, if there is no strategy defined, you have to downgrade all the other best practices, or at least to check the influence on the other best practices. Because the next practices talk about the implementation. Yeah? Implement a work product quality assurance, yeah? So it means perform reviews on work products. Yeah? If you plan in the project work product reviews, yeah, that's of course good. Yeah? Maybe you don't have an overall strategy, what do you want to achieve? Yeah? So for example, to have let's say a 100% coverage of all work products. Yeah? So in order to prove in the end, okay, if you really reviewed all the work products, yeah, but at least you have a result, yeah? You do something. But without having a strategy, this could mean that you have to downgrade the complete process. I would say, okay, even without having an explicit strategy that is documented in a certain way, I want to honor as a project that they do something. Yeah? They do reviews, they perform audits, they maybe also create reports. So in general, they fulfill the purpose of the process. Maybe the only weakness is that the strategy is not well documented. Then this is one weakness for me. Will lead to a certain downgrade, yeah? But it will not lead to the result that the purpose of the process is not fulfilled. Yeah? So the relationship between these different practices is very often pretty clear. Yeah? But only using the dependency in order to downgrade something without respecting the content, how it is implemented, I think is not completely the right way. Yeah? And that's our goal also, to find a solution where you can define and document a certain strategy that is really useful for your project, without spending too much time on that, but with a focus on implementation, to find an efficient way to implement it without spending a lot of effort on that. So in the end, of course, our customers will be able to fulfill also that guideline, because we know the guideline in the meantime. It consists of more than 300 pages, so really a lot of things, and I think you need experts to help you to reach and to fulfill it.